You always were the disappointment, Ethan. This house was never meant for you and your little family. Pack your things and leave by the weekend. We don't need you here anymore." Adrian's voice, sharp and condescending, cut through the air. I stood outside the dining room, clutching the doorframe. My breath caught in my throat. Ethan had been pacing, his frustration evident. "I've put up with your arrogance and your endless criticisms for too long," Ethan shot back. "We'll leave, but mark my words, you'll regret this decision." The moment hung heavy in the air as the argument simmered down. My heart ached for Ethan. He had always strived to keep the family together, to fulfill his father's wish, but Adrian's return had shattered the fragile peace we had managed to maintain. As I stepped into the room, Ethan turned toward me, his face a blend of anger and sorrow. "Lila, we need to talk about what's next." Our life had turned upside down since we moved in. 3 months ago, Ethan's father, Harold, had called in a panic. His health was failing, and he needed support. Ethan, ever the dutiful son, agreed despite knowing how fraught the relationship with his mother and brother could be. "Do you remember how reluctant you were, Ethan?" I said softly, trying to offer some comfort. "You weren't sure about moving in, but Harold needed us. You did the right thing." Ethan sighed. "But at what cost, Lila? Adrian's back, and he's making our lives hell. Now we have to uproot our family again." We retreated to our bedroom, which Harold had kindly given us when we moved in. The worn walls and creaking floorboards had since become our little haven of sanity. "Maybe this is our chance to find a place of our own," I suggested, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Somewhere we can finally be at peace." Ethan nodded, though his worry was clear. "We have to think about Logan, too. He's had enough upheaval already. He just started at a new school." Logan, our 17-year-old son, had been adapting well despite everything, but the constant tension in the house wasn't fair to him. "We'll make it work," I said with conviction. "We've been through worse. We can get through this too." Dinner that night was tense. Fiona, our 82-year-old mother-in-law, was her usual stern self, but tried to make small talk. Harold, frail yet kind, only managed a few words, but his eyes spoke volumes of apology and understanding. Adrian sat smugly, as if he had already won. "Lila, could you pass the mashed potatoes?" Adrian's voice oozed mock politeness. I clenched the serving spoon, but handed it over. Ethan barely touched his food, his mind clearly elsewhere. Later, as we lay in bed, Ethan turned to me, determination in his eyes. "We'll pack up tomorrow and start looking for a new place first thing. We deserve a life free from all this." I squeezed his hand. Despite the turmoil, I believed in our ability to move forward. We had each other. And that was enough. Morning dawned, and the house was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the tension that had filled it the night before. Ethan and I started packing our things, prioritizing the essentials. Logan helped, his usual teenage grumbling absent. He knew the gravity of the situation. "Do you think we'll find something soon?" Logan asked, folding his clothes into a suitcase. "We will, Logan," Ethan replied firmly. "We'll find a place where we can be happy. This is just a bump in the road." As we boxed up the last of our belongings, Harold shuffled into the room, leaning heavily on his cane. "Are you sure about this, Ethan?" "There's no other way, Dad," Ethan said, his voice softening. "Adrian has made it clear we're not welcome here." Harold's eyes grew misty. "Your mother? She favors Adrian, but I never wanted this. I'm sorry things turned out this way." I placed a hand on Harold's arm. "We know, Harold, you've always been kind to us." By midday, Adrian had made his presence known, sauntering into the room with a smug look on his face. "Need any help moving out faster?" he sneered. Ethan straightened, his fists clenching. "We're handling it, Adrian. Don't worry about us." Adrian laughed. "Oh, I'm not worried, just making sure you don't overstay your welcome." My jaw tightened, but I held my tongue. There was no point in engaging with him. By evening, Ethan's mother, Fiona, appeared in the doorway, her face a mask of indifference. "Dinner's ready," she said curtly. "You might as well eat before you go." The dining room felt colder than usual. Fiona and Adrian seemed to carry on as if nothing had happened, while Harold remained silent, his sadness palpable. We ate quickly, wanting to get the meal over with. "Mom, could you stop pretending everything is fine?" Logan suddenly spoke up, his frustration boiling over. "This isn't fair." Fiona glanced at him, her lips pursed. "Life isn't always fair, Logan. You'll understand when you're older." Ethan pushed his plate away and stood up. Enough. We're done here. We'll be gone by morning. He turned to Harold. Dad, take care. We'll keep in touch. Harold nodded sadly. Take care, son. We finished packing in silence, the heaviness of the situation wrapping around us like a shroud. As night fell, we squeezed into Logan's small room, sleeping on mattresses on the floor. Ethan's voice broke the quiet. Tomorrow, we'll find our new beginning. Remember, Lila, we're stronger together. I nodded in the dark, taking solace in his words. No matter what Adrian or Fiona threw our way, we would face it head on. Our family's bond was unbreakable, and that was more than enough. We arranged a moving van early the next morning and loaded our belongings with a mix of urgency and relief. Ethan arranged for a storage unit while we began our search for a new home. Logan, though visibly weary, kept his spirits high, cracking jokes to lighten the mood. Once we finished, we stood in the driveway, looking at the house one last time. Harold sat on the porch, watching us with a mournful expression. Fiona and Adrian were nowhere to be seen. Take care of yourself, Dad, Ethan called out. Harold nodded, giving a small wave. You too, son. Stay strong. We drove away, leaving behind the web of spite and manipulation. Within hours, we were checking out rental properties, hopeful that a fresh start was around the corner. Meanwhile, back at the house, Adrian began tightening his grip. He demanded the best meals, barking orders at Fiona and treating Harold like a nuisance. Fiona's earlier coldness towards us was now thawed by Adrian's escalating arrogance, and she grew weary of her once favored son. By the end of the day, Adrian's demands had only increased. Why can't you keep up, Mom? Is it that hard to make a decent meal around here? Fiona sighed, her patience wearing thin. I'm doing my best, Adrian. Maybe you should help out instead of just criticizing. Adrian scoffed. Help out? That's not my job, Mom. That's what you're here for. Harold, watching the growing tension, finally spoke up. Adrian, this isn't right. We need to work together, not tear each other apart. Adrian shrugged off his father's words, continuing his tirade without a care in the world. Back in town, we found a modest house that seemed promising. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. As we began to settle in, Ethan's phone rang. He frowned at the screen. It's Mom. Are you going to answer? I asked, my curiosity piqued. He hesitated, then picked up. Hello, Mom. Fiona's voice was shaky. Ethan, I need your help. Adrian's, not what I imagined. He's too demanding. Ethan's expression hardened. You made your choice, Mom. You pushed us out. I know, Ethan, but Harold's health is getting worse, and I can't manage everything, she pleaded. Ethan looked at me, seeking my input. I shook my head, firm in my resolve. We can't save everyone, Ethan, and we need to focus on us. He relayed the message to Fiona. I'm sorry, Mom, but we can't come back. We have to think about our family now. Fiona's sigh was filled with regret. I understand. As we ended the call, I hugged Ethan tightly. We did the right thing. They need to face the consequences of their actions. Ethan nodded, his eyes resolute. We have our own lives to rebuild. No more looking back. And with that, we began piecing together the fragments of our new life, basking in the freedom and opportunities ahead, all the while knowing that karma had its own way of setting things right. We settled into our new place quickly. It wasn't luxurious, but it was ours, and that was all that mattered. As we unpacked, the tension began to lift. Logan seemed happier, and Ethan's shoulders were slightly less hunched. Just as we started to feel at home, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Adrian standing there, his face twisted in a smug grin. What do you want, Adrian? I asked, barely keeping my composure. Adrian pushed past me into the living room. I've come to see if you're settling in well. Wanted to check up on my little brother and his lovely family. Ethan came out from the kitchen, his eyes narrowing. Get out, Adrian. You're not welcome here. Adrian raised an eyebrow. Is that any way to greet family? I just wanted to see how you're doing. We're doing fine, no thanks to you, Ethan snapped. You have no business being here. Adrian chuckled darkly. Oh, but I do. You see, Mom and Dad are struggling without your help. It's quite entertaining to watch. My blood boiled. How can you be so heartless? They're your parents. Adrian shrugged. They made their bed. Isn't that what you always say, Lila? Ethan stepped forward, his jaw clenched. You've said what you came to say, now leave. Adrian looked around, feigning disappointment. Such a pity. I was hoping for a cozy family reunion. But fine, I'll go for now. Remember, Ethan, you can run, but you can't hide from family responsibilities. With a final smirk, Adrian sauntered out. Dad, leaving a trail of tension in his wake. I turned to Ethan, my hands trembling. We can't let him get to us. We need to focus on us, remember? Ethan nodded, but the fire in his eyes was undeniable. He's not going to ruin this for us, Lila, I promise. Days turned into weeks and we found our rhythm. Meanwhile, reports from Fiona trickled in. It seemed Adrian's return had only added to their troubles. Harold's health was worsening, and Fiona found herself overwhelmed by Adrian's increasing demands and lack of support. One evening, the phone rang again. This time it was Harold. Ethan's face softened as he answered. Dad, are you okay? Harold's voice was weak but determined. Ethan, I need to see you. Things are bad here. Adrian is unbearable. Your mother can't cope. Ethan's resolve wavered, but he looked at me and I shook my head. We can bring Dad here, but we're not going back, I said firmly. Ethan relayed the message. Dad, pack your things. You're coming to stay with us. Harold's relief was apparent. Thank you, son. I don't know how much longer I could have lasted there. Hanging up, Ethan sighed. It's the right thing to do, Lila. We'll make it work. I took his hand. We're stronger together. We'll get through this. The next few days were a whirlwind as we prepared to bring Harold to our home. Despite the challenges, we held on to the belief that, together, we could face anything, and that, in time, Adrian and Fiona would reap the consequences of their own actions. The day Harold moved in with us marked a significant shift. His presence brought a mix of relief and underlying tension. We rearranged the small living room to accommodate his needs, determined to make him as comfortable as possible. Thank you for taking me in, Harold said, settling into the recliner we had bought for him. Your family, Ethan replied. We look out for each other. As days passed, we fell into a routine. Harold's gentle demeanor contrasted sharply with Fiona's demanding nature and Adrian's arrogance, making it clear why Ethan felt so conflicted about leaving them behind. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, Harold broke the silence. I never wanted it to come to this. Adrian's behavior, it's inexcusable. Fiona, well, she's always had a blind spot for him. Ethan's face hardened. Dad, we all make choices. I just wish Mom had seen the truth sooner. Harold nodded, sorrow etched on his features. I hope she realizes it soon. Adrian's already caused too much damage. The phone rang, cutting through the moment. I answered, my stomach nodding at the sound of Fiona's voice. Lila, it's Fiona. I need to talk to Ethan. I handed the phone over, mouthing, it's his mom, to Ethan. He took it, leaning against the counter. Mom? What is it? Fiona's voice was strained. Ethan, I need your help. Adrian's behavior is out of control. He's draining our finances and refuses to help with anything. I don't know what to do. Ethan took a deep breath. Mom, we've heard about Adrian's actions, but you chose to support him over us. We can't keep fixing your mistakes. But Ethan, I'm desperate, Fiona pleaded. Harold's not there, and I can't manage alone. Ethan's face was set in stone. We're taking care of Dad because it's the right thing to do. But we can't rescue you from the choices you made. You need to figure this out. Tears welled in Fiona's voice. Please, Ethan, I can't do this alone. Ethan's resolve showed no cracks. You have Adrian, Mom. He's your son, too. He hung up, exhaling deeply. We have our own lives to lead, Lila. We can't keep getting drawn back. The next morning, as Harold and I sat on the porch, he looked at me with a sad smile. You've given me a second chance at peace, Lila. No matter what Fiona says or does, you've done more than enough. I squeezed his hand. We're just glad you're here with us. Later, Ethan took Logan out for some father-son time, while Harold and I enjoyed the quiet. The weight of the situation still lingered, but amidst it all, there was a sense of newfound hope and determination. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over our small newfound sanctuary, we felt a glimmer of the future, one free from the past's relentless grip. In those quiet moments, we knew that, despite the chaos behind us, we were forging a path forward stronger than ever before. Life in our new home settled into a calm, manageable routine. Harold's presence was a constant reminder of the past, yet also a testament to the strength of our family. He found peace in the simple joys, afternoon walks with Logan, quiet meals together, and watching old westerns in the evenings. One afternoon, while I was preparing dinner, the phone rang. I answered, recognizing Fiona's strained voice on the other end. Lila, I need to speak with Ethan. It's important. I handed the phone to Ethan, who took it with a look of resignation. Mom, what is it now? Fiona's voice wavered. Ethan, Adrian's situation has gotten worse. His scandals hit the news, and he's lost his job. He's threatening to leave, and we're on the brink of losing the house. I don't know who else to turn to. Ethan's face was unreadable. Mom, we warned you about Adrian, but you chose to ignore us. Now you want us to clean up his mess again? There's no one else, Ethan. Please, we need help. Fiona's voice cracked. Ethan took a long, deep breath. We'll think about what we can do, but don't expect everything to go back to the way it was. He hung up and sat down heavily, looking at me. Adrian's finally facing the consequences of his actions. Fiona wants our help, but I'm not sure what we can or should do. I placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We've done our best to help. We need to protect our family now. As the days passed, Fiona's calls became more desperate. Adrian's downfall was public, and his wife had left him, taking what little they had left. The once confident brother now found himself at the mercy of the same parents he'd so easily disregarded when things were good. One evening, while Logan was out with friends, we gathered in the living room. Ethan broke the silence. I've decided we'll help Dad move in with us permanently. We can't do more than that. Harold nodded, looking relieved. I never wanted to be a burden. I just want peace in my last years. The next morning, Fiona called again, her voice heavy with resignation. Ethan, I know I've made mistakes and I've favored Adrian unfairly, but please, understand, we're desperate. Ethan was firm yet kind. I'm sorry, Mom, but Dad's welcome here. As for you and Adrian, you need to find your own way. We can't save you from the choices you made. Fiona's sobs echoed through the phone. I understand. Thank you, Ethan. She hung up, leaving a weight in the air. As we helped Harold settle further into our home, the reality of our decisions sunk in. We had chosen the path that protected our family, though it left Fiona and Adrian to contend with their actions alone. In the end, we found solace in knowing we had done right by those who deserved it, and that, sometimes, life's harshest lessons had to be learned the hard way. Our newfound peace, earned through hardship, was the beginning of a brighter, more hopeful future. The air was crisp as we prepared breakfast that Sunday morning. I could sense a shift in Harold's demeanor. He seemed more content, more at peace. The house, now marked by quiet resilience, felt like a safe haven. As we gathered around the table, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then looked up at us. It's Fiona again. Should I answer? I nodded. It's better to know what's happening, Ethan answered, his voice careful. Hi, Mom. Fiona sounded tired and defeated. Ethan, I understand your decision. I just wanted you to know that Adrian left. He took what he could and disappeared. We're losing the house. Ethan was silent for a moment. I'm sorry, Mom. I hope you find a way to get through this. Maybe reach out for some external help. Fiona sighed. I'm trying, Ethan. I'm trying to make sense of everything. After the call, we ate in silence. Harold finally broke it. You did what you had to do, son. Don't ever doubt that. Ethan nodded. I know, Dad. It's just complicated. Later that day, as Ethan and I sat in the living room, Logan came home from playing basketball. He threw his bag down and flopped onto the couch. Dad, are Grandma and Uncle Adrian okay? Ethan hesitated. They're going through a tough time, Logan, but we've done all that we can. Logan nodded, his young face already showing signs of understanding life's complexities. I hope they figure things out. But I'm glad Grandpa is with us. Days turned into weeks, and our lives settled into a peaceful rhythm. One evening, an unexpected visitor knocked on our door. Ethan opened it to find a disheveled Adrian standing there. What do you want, Adrian? Ethan's voice was cold, filled with the history of betrayal. Adrian looked desperate. I need a place to stay, Ethan. Everything fell apart. I have nowhere else to go. Ethan's jaw tightened. You put yourself in that position. We won't let you bring your chaos here. Adrian's eyes darted around, looking for a way in. Please, Ethan. I've lost everything. I'm your brother. No, Adrian, Ethan replied firmly. You are reaping what you sowed. Leave. Adrian lingered, but the door was shut firmly in his face. Inside, Harold nodded approvingly. Sometimes, tough love is the only way. As we settled into a movie that evening, the weight of our decisions felt lighter. The consequences of Adrian's actions were his to bear alone. In the coming months, we experienced a sense of peace and stability that had long eluded us. Logan excelled in school, and I found joy in a part-time job at the local community center. One evening, as Logan prepared for a college visit, Harold looked around the dinner table and smiled. It's good to see everyone thriving. Ethan squeezed my hand under the table. We've come a long way and learned a lot. We're stronger than ever. We raised our glasses in a silent toast to the journey we had endured and to the bright, uncharted path that lay ahead. Though the scars of the past remained, they were overshadowed by the love and unity that now defined our family. The bright sun heralded a new beginning as we prepared Harold for Logan's college visit. Our excitement was palpable. Logan was thriving, and his acceptance into a prestigious college added joy to our lives. "Ready for the trip, Dad?" Ethan asked, helping Harold into the car. Harold smiled, his eyes twinkling. I wouldn't miss this for the world. The drive was filled with laughter and anticipation. Logan talked about his plans, and we shared our hopes for his future. As we approached the campus, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. "It's Mom again." "Do you want to answer?" I asked gently. Ethan's brows knitted together. "I'll call her back later. Today is about Logan." We parked and began our tour of the beautiful campus. Logan's eyes sparkled with excitement, and Harold's enthusiasm was infectious. Watching Logan navigate through the possibilities reminded us why we had made the tough choices we did. By evening, we had checked into a cozy bed and breakfast. After a hearty dinner, as we settled into our rooms, Ethan finally returned Fiona's call. "Ethan, thank you for calling back." Fiona's voice cracked, filled with exhaustion. "Adrian, he's hit rock bottom. He's lost everything and has been arrested for fraud. I don't know what to do." Ethan took a deep breath. "Mom, you need to reach out to the proper authorities and get some help. We've done everything we can. It's up to you and Adrian now." Fiona sobbed quietly. "I understand. I just wish I'd seen things sooner. I'm so sorry, Ethan." Ethan clenched his jaw, then softened. "It's in the past now. Focus on making things right. We can't fix this for you, but I hope you find the strength to move forward." After he hung up, Ethan sighed deeply. "It's never easy, is it?" I placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "No, but we're making the right decisions for our family." The next morning, we continued our tour. By lunchtime, Logan had already made a few friends and explored enough to feel confident in his choice. Harold beamed with pride, and Ethan looked more relaxed than he had in months. As we prepared to head back home, Harold spoke up. "This visit, it's a reminder of what we've accomplished as a family. Logan's future is bright, and we've built something strong and enduring." I nodded, tears welling up. "We've gone through so much, but it's brought us closer together." Ethan squeezed my hand. "We'll keep moving forward. Together." The drive home was quieter, filled with reflections and hopes for the future. As we pulled into the driveway, it felt like returning to a sanctuary, a place we had fought for and earned. We helped Harold inside and settled back into our routine. The weight of the past had lifted, replaced by a sense of peace and anticipation for the future. That evening, we gathered around the dinner table once more. "To new beginnings," Ethan said, raising his glass. "To new beginnings," we echoed, clinking our glasses together. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over our home, I looked around at my family, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. We had faced the storm and emerged stronger, ready for whatever lay ahead.